So Leo, your monthly forecast for December begins with Venus having joined up with Mars and the Sun in the fifth house of your scope, which has a kind of Leonian echo. The fire sign of Sagittarius is the host, which is very much about taking the initiative, being very positive and dynamic, but your natural charisma can be turned up to max by this trio of energies. It's just that on the 4th, the full moon in the sign of Gemini, which is very much about quick communications around your network, and it's T-squared to the position of the North Node, just could tease into the open those relationships you have, whether it is socially, with friends, even with colleagues, where you may feel at some level rather obliged to someone. And if that is the case, perhaps even in a romantic situation, if a tie has become a little bit heavy or has some politics around it, as Mars squares off to both Saturn and Neptune in the early part of the month, that part of you that wants to be a bit more of a free spirit can be challenged by the other person's expectations, all the way if it feels rather controlling. Now on the 10th, Neptune does end a long retrograde, which began on the 4th of July. And if there has been some confusion over shared finances or resources, that can clarify to some degree, but on the 11th, Mercury returns to Sagittarius too. Now, it left on the 19th of November, and for you, Mercury moving into the 5th house just gives you that extra cutting edge when it comes to demonstrating your sense of playfulness and also your sense of mischief and fun, because whilst it went back into Scorpio through its retrograde, you may have felt a little bit more introspective, even very sensitive, but found it hard to express how you really felt. Now on the 15th, Mars moves out of Sagittarius and into the sign of Capricorn. For you personally, I feel this can be a real asset. It will need to shrug off the limiting energy and the draining energy of Neptune and Saturn, but as it picks up pace in Capricorn, it's encouraging you before the year's end to get serious about being more virtuous about some of the things you want to achieve next year, whether it's around your work, whether it's around your diet or exercise. But what it will give you almost immediately is some extra stamina to cope with the pressures that this part of the year often throws up. Now, Mercury also emerges from its post-retrograde shadow on the 17th. If there has been crosswise with someone that you're friendly with, it's an opportunity to create even greater clarity. But on the 20th, we have a new moon in Sagittarius. Now, usually each year, this is one of the most beneficial new moons for you personally. And the reason for that is that you share the fire triplicity. So very much about passion and action, but also the ruler of the sign of Sagittarius is the ruler of the second decan of your zodiac sign. So there is a mutual receptivity. There is a part of you that can be, if you give yourself permission, very daring in that more Sagittarius way. But this is a new moon that's conflicted, like Mars before it, by the draining energy of Neptune and the more limiting vibe of Saturn. If there is some politics around any association and it is having an impact on your desire to connect with certain people, or you don't feel that you can be quite as free as you want, this could really show up through this new moon. Ordinarily, new moons are wonderful for setting our intentions. You can still use it constructively. If you're a maker or a creator, or you have a brilliant idea, which it does involve using your artistry or flair, you can do so in a more practical way, particularly once the sun moves into Capricorn on the 21st with the winter solstice, followed by the planet which is very much to do with creativity, Venus. So the last 10 days of this month could see you talking about with people over the festive period, the things that are really intriguing you, and Also, you're going to have a desire to forge the ideas you've got into something more tangible. But if you have got guests visiting you over the festive period, I think the chances are you're going to want to really give of yourself the very best. So if you're hosting, you're going to want to do it really well. But I think it's important not to push yourself too hard. Do you know Venus is going to clash with Saturn and Neptune too, just before she moves into the sign of Capricorn. So I feel that the vibe this month, particularly around shared finances, or where you want to be very invested or where you don't want to be very invested with a particular person, initially can conflict with a part of your nature that wants to really showcase the full force of your personality power and draw in a lot of attention and fun. And if there are clinging demands or even clinging people, that can be rather inhibiting. So if a relationship has felt a little bit heavy, or someone's rather jealous or a bit possessive, and that shows up in the early parts of the month, it could test a tie all the way to whether it will continue. But in the latter part of the month, I think you're looking for equilibrium. You're looking for things to work properly. And as you prepare for the turn of the year, if you are going to set yourself some New Year's resolutions, often with the Sun in Capricorn, you can do this, but I think this year, with Mars's support, your appetite to really be that much more careful about what you eat and drink and the exercise you take as you burst into the new year is going to be a big part of your thinking. But it doesn't mean to say that you can't enjoy the festivities. I think you just may be mindful of the bigger picture of where your direction of travel lays. If you've yet to watch your year 2026 deep dive forecast, please see the link below this video. If you've yet to order your personal forecast for year 2026, you can do so now. You'll also get your life roadmap report, which helps you to understand the patterns that are played out in your life so far. The combination of the two will help you to plan your moves in the months ahead so much more effectively. 30% off, free gift of your general, love, Chinese and Indian written forecast for each of the 12 signs. Please see the link below for more.